Hello and welcome to Coffee with Dr. Carla. I'm Dr. Carla and I'm so glad that you're here with me today. And hopefully today we are going to be able to end some of the stigma surrounding mental health issues. I'm going to start by sharing a story with you from it's a long time ago, it feels like, maybe 20 years ago-ish. At that point, my daughter was in high school and she was really struggling with a lot of mental health issues, a lot of addiction issues. There was just so many different things going on. At the time I was running, and I remember one of my running friends, we were talking about different things that were going on and some of the different stressors and whatnot. And she kind of looked at me and she said, this has got to be really hard. Like, you must be overly stressed. And I remember saying to her, no, this is becoming normal. Like, I don't feel like I'm stressed at all, right? And the day, I very distinctly remember that day, because that day my daughter was, hospitalized, out in Naperville. Visiting hours was only between 6 and 7 p.m. And, so only during rush hour traffic, and I was working full time and trying to figure out how to, help her and understand what the heck was going on. But no, I wasn't stressed at all. Everything was good. That was a bunch of malarkey. But over the years, I figured out why I thought that, right? So what was it that was going on that made me essentially blind to just how bad things were, or how significant my stress levels really were at the time, right? And so there's this thing called the window of tolerance, right? And so if you think about a regular window, that we have in our house, I mean, they're pretty decent sizes, unless maybe we're going into a bathroom, and then maybe it might be really small, but they're all different sizes. And if you're within the part where the glass is, right, that's considered the window of tolerance. And that doesn't mean that life is good. It just means that whatever life is throwing at us, we can handle. We can tolerate it. Life's good, bad, ugly, right? We're able to deal with it. It may not be comfortable, it may not be desirable, right? So I always warn clients when we talk about the window of tolerance, we're not aiming to be in the window of tolerance because it's, it's the time where everything's good and happy and easy. Those times may exist there, but that's not the only thing that exists there. That just means that with the full range of what life can throw at us, we've got the skills and the capacity to cope in a healthy, appropriate way when we can stay in that window. Now, if we go, so again, imagine that window in your house, right? If we go above that, right, to that section of the wall that's between the top of the window and the ceiling, right, that's what we would call hyper aroused. So if you think about something's going on and next thing you know it, you're like, oh my God, that's hyper aroused, right? And then if we go below, so like here's the windowsill, if we go below, that's hypo aroused, which is basically where we start to shut off, we kind of fall into a funk. Maybe we go to sleep, maybe we dissociate, we zone out, space out, however you want to talk about it, right? And then there's two other zones, right? So to go back to, like, why was it that I thought I was okay? Why was it that I thought I was actually in the window of tolerance? Well, because there's this little strip that's right between, it's like right where the hyper aroused goes and the window of tolerance starts. There's a little strip there, And the same thing happens between the hypoaroused and the bottom of the window of tolerance. There's a little strip there. And we call these the faux window of tolerances. So it's like right when we're hovering right at the line, things are tough, but somehow we're tricked into thinking we're okay when we're really not. Okay? And how can you tell that you're in that faux window of tolerance? Right? I think it's in those two spaces where we get tricked into thinking that everything's okay. That's where I believe the blind spots happen. And so to illustrate that, when we are in our window of tolerance, we're able to think. Our cognitions are online, right? When we go out of the window of tolerance, they go offline. So here's the best example that I can come up with that everyone can understand. So for those of you who drive, on any given day, especially if you're a seasoned driver, brand new driver not so much, but a seasoned driver, you're driving along and maybe you got one hand on the steering wheel and the other hand's flipping the radio stations, and maybe you're drinking your coffee or your soda, and maybe there's other people in the car and you're talking, or maybe you've got the phone on the Bluetooth and you're talking through your car system, you're laughing, you're joking around, and you're driving, and all's good, right? You can do all those things, right? And the reason why we can do all those things at the same time is because they're rote activities. We've done them so many times that they're just second nature. None of them are novel enough or new enough to be considered a truly cognitive activity, right? Because we can only concentrate on one cognitive activity at a time. We can focus on a plethora of rote activities. So we're driving and we're singing, and maybe we're singing and talking with whoever's in the car with us, and it's all awesome, and maybe we're tapping our hands on the steering wheel, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, this flash thunderstorm hits, and the skies get really dark, and hail starts to fall down. All of a sudden, the music's off. You're telling the person, shut up, I can't think when you're talking, and your both hands are on the steering wheel, and 100% of your attention is focused on driving. What's in front of you? It is now cognitive. And that is the only thing you can do. That's why we get such a narrow focus when stuff like that happens out of the blue, right? So, window of tolerance, we can do a whole bunch of rote things as well as cognitive things, but we're still only doing them one at a time, right? Back to the car issue, if I am totally I'm having a hard time, but I'm coping. Okay, I'm gonna take some deep breaths. Let me just keep going. Maybe it'd be a good idea to pull over because it's really bad, right? That's all within the window of tolerance. I'm able to cognitively think things through, right? Now, if that storm comes and all of a sudden I'm like, oh my God, I can't see. Now I'm in hyper aroused, and guess what I'm not doing? I'm not thinking. Can't think, too busy freaking out, right? Now, hopefully, when that storm comes, we don't go to hypo aroused, where we check out. But there's times where people just end up on autopilot and they have no idea how they got. Like that came, it was so overwhelming, they ended up on autopilot. That's that dissociative, that checking out phase. It does happen. That's scary. Because how did you get there? But we don't know, right? So, that car example kind of demonstrates that. So when I'm in my faux window of tolerance, whether it's at the top or the bottom of the window, right, it seems as though my cognition is online, my brain is operating, my executive functioning is doing what it's supposed to do, but the reality of it is, it's kind of sketchy. It's kind of like it's skipping a few beats, right? And so that's what tricks us into thinking we're okay, right? Or we're managing this well, right? And so, how is it that you could be blind to how severe something is in your life? It's pretty easy. It's all about coping and what it is that we want to, believe, maybe from a denial point of view. This is too hard to believe, so I'm just going to pretend like it's not there. Or maybe it's more of a protection type thing where, I'm avoiding it so I can't get harmed by it, right? There's all sorts of reasons why perhaps we don't want to examine it. Or if we admit it's as bad as other people are telling us, then that's a really scary place sometimes to go as well. What am I supposed to do? How did I let myself get here? Maybe you're feeling shame. Maybe you're feeling fear, anxiety, all sorts of different things. And sometimes there's this crazy notion that if I don't really examine it, that maybe it won't be as bad as I think it is. And if I don't examine it, then I also don't have to take care of it. So maybe it doesn't really exist, right? Like, have you ever had that time where you're like, I know something's going wonky with my checking account because I'm not doing a good job of monitoring my money, and you're afraid to open up the checking account. Like, if you open it, suddenly it's going to reveal the truth, right? But like somehow if you don't open it, the truth won't be the truth. Like somehow there'll be extra money in there if you don't open it, right? The reality is what the reality is, right? I only have X amount of dollars in my checking account, whether I open it or not. The problem is if I don't open it, I don't have all the facts and I can't do something about it, right? If I do open it, while it might make me cringe, I at least have all the facts and I can do something about it, right? So why do we have blind spots? Oh, there's so many reasons. But the one that tends to take over the most is that our capacity to tolerate things is stretched to capacity. And we're in this faux area where we're kind of fooling ourselves that we're okay or that we're handling it well. And they tend to be more maladaptive or unhealthy ways of handling it versus healthy ways. So the unhealthy ways from the hypo end would be different numbing activities, binging on alcohol or drugs, but even binging on TV shows and Netflix, social media, whatever, right? Kind of just anything that kind of makes you check out. At the top end, maybe for that hyper aroused, maybe it's those bursts of energy that you keep yourself mindlessly busy with tasks. And the idea that, well, I'm completing all these tasks, so I must be okay, right? But it's more of avoidance of what really is going on, right? So hopefully that kind of helps to explain why sometimes we are just completely blind to what's happening in our life, or we're blind to the severity of it. So I will add one last comment. If that's you, I hate to bust your bubble, but you're not alone. So it's not special to you. There are millions and millions and millions of people who find themselves there. And I think if we're all honest, we have all found ourselves there at one point or another. And so the key is not to beat yourself up about the fact that you were blind to it. Then you can say, all right, I didn't really want to admit it, but I can see it now. And then you do something about it, right? Because beating yourself up for not seeing it sooner doesn't help anything. Saying, yep, I wish I would have seen that sooner, and now I'm going to do something about it, that does help. And then the next time something like that happens, then maybe you'll catch it just a little bit sooner, right? Judging yourselves will never be the answer to any of these things. So hopefully that explanation was coherent enough that you all were able to follow it. Remember, you can change your thoughts and discover your potential and transform your life by focusing on your overall well-being. So until next time, continue working on being the best you possible. Bye.